Hello everyone, very happy to be here today on this fresh morning in Paris, but sunny. The topic of today will be both kind of old in the range of tech because it's AI factories, a topic that we talk a lot in many companies in the financial services, but the goal will be to see the financial services in the era of the new AI factory. And to do so, to be able to be exhaustive, we would need three type of skills, and hopefully we have them on the stage. We have, I will go by layers. So we have Georgios, representing NVIDIA, the payment and fintech leader at NVIDIA, which will be, of course, representing a foundational layer known for the chip, but as well, you will tell us a bit on the software part of NVIDIA. We have the second layer, which is Mauro, which is the EMEA director of Lenovo. Lenovo will be representing this end-to-end platform from the raw data that you could use to be able to unleash the full value of AI, of generative AI, of agentic AI. And this value used in a company will be represented by Bernd, the Chief Technological Data Innovation Officer at Deutsche Bank, who will bring us concretely on what a bank can do for this factory of the future. So a very broad topic. We will start with you, if it's fine, Georgios, with the first question. So it's on this specific factory, kind of successful so far to deliver use cases. Use cases there and there, some POC, the goal would be to go industrial, but struggling to go in the end-to-end process reinvention to cope with this agentic revolution. And how can we use all the skills that we have on the table to create this transformation around the process and the true delivery of value?
Morning everyone, and Jeremy said fresh, I would say cold morning. Luckily you all have blankets, wish we had some here. But in any case, it's amazing that you're saying AI factories as something that has been around for a while. Actually not, it's something that has emerged in the last couple of years. And you're right, NVIDIA is in the core of this revolution. But there's so many layers. It's not only the IT infrastructure, it's the software, it's the data, it's the applications. And there's no single day that someone has not published a report to say either AI is amazing or there's a lot of AI projects failing around that. And when we talk to customers and to partners, there's one very clear insight that comes around this factory. Companies that are successful in deploying AI factories or AI in general are people that take a full stack approach. And this is where NVIDIA is best positioned to support it. When you talk about full stack approach in AI factories, we talk typically companies need to have 3 technology strategy plus one that is a little bit a softer strategy around it. The 3 strategy that each company that I've seen successful in deploying AI factory is you need to have a strategy around your application layer. This is typically where a lot of the company starts hunting for the quick implementation, quick success. The next strategy that you need to have is around data. And it's not only around data, how do you get this data in one place, but also how do you transfer this data into insights? And this is the beauty of these AI factories, that they are generating insights. These insights are things that are knowledge that you can monetize in one way or the other in the company. And the third layer is the compute. And it doesn't matter if it's a company that wants to do everything on premise, everything on cloud, everything hybrid, sovereign. The important thing is to have strategy around it. Without having a clear strategy and a clear direction, it's very difficult to make significant strides. So these three technology layers are required. The plus one that I'm saying is around people and talent. And it's not necessarily about the lack and how do you need to have a strategy, how do you upscale your talent, how do you train them, but also how do you bring skills that today you don't have into the organization. So if I kind of looked into there, having this 3 strategy around, or this 3+1 strategy around, makes an AI factory. And NVIDIA, yes, we make the chips, we make CPUs, GPUs, and DPUs in terms of all hardware that partners of ours are implementing. But then on top of that, we start building a lot of software libraries to accelerate any part of the operations of businesses. In financial services, machine learning, building models is extremely important. So we have a library called CUDA-X that is very important for accelerating data processing, accelerating model. And this is where actually most of the financial services that I've seen start. So how do you build from the defensive part, how do you use this new technology to protect your company, to start expanding a little bit beyond that? So I'm happy to talk a little bit further about payments foundation models or some of the work that we have seen of breaking silos across the organizations.
Yeah, I had a question on breaking silos that we discussed a bit back at the time. Could you zoom in of what works very well and how to break the difficulties of these silos in the organization?
Yeah, so as I look very much, I spend my time on payments, and in payments is a relatively straightforward process, but there's a lot of different independent models that comes across from a payment transaction. So you have your checkout, your fraud, your compliance, your authorization, authentication, a settlement, then you have chargeback management, etc. Today, the way a lot of organizations work, there's independent models. So you have your fraud models that don't necessarily interact with the model that works around your lifetime value management of a customer. So we start seeing some companies applying the methodology that is used for companies to train large language models, but apply that to transaction data. So you build these foundation models on payments, transactions, and you can apply it both on the acquiring side and on the issuing side to start having these self-growing models that you can then use the embeddings for them to power a lot of very different downstream use cases. So your engagements with the customers becomes extremely powerful, and the specific for your engagement is then reflected in each steps of the payment process.
It's very clear. Thank you very much. We'll come back to a few questions later on that. If we go on you, Mauro, now, on hands-on question, how do we implement such a full stack and this end-to-end approach on data from raw to value, and would be great to have your insight on the market globally on success factors and struggles.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's a really good question, right? So we've heard of these death by pilots, right? So what we're talking about is, okay, we've been there, but how do you run these AI factories with these applications on top at scale, 24/7, securely, and in a scalable way? Because your workloads are changing, your workforce is growing, your customers ideally are growing. So how do you run these AI factories, and how do you enable building these kind of end-to-end applications at scale? And that's, at Lenovo, we set up a strategy which goes by the name Hybrid AI Advantage, which is really based on the realization that to drive these systems, to drive value from AI in the enterprise, you have to have a holistic view, and you have to take a system thinking approach to how you bring these applications and value to the organization. I think George has mentioned it. It's not just about the infrastructure. The infrastructure is the workhorse, right? So the GPUs, the whole tech stack, the comms, security systems. But then you've got a data layer, right? So in integrating all these data layers, data is very diverse. In the financial kind of financial organizations do have a variety of data sources, a variety of volumes, and going from transaction to customer information, that they change and they're quite different. These days, other sources of data like image, voice are being used. So data is a big, how do you build that and integrate that in the whole stack? And then all the models and solutions that drive value, right, from this data, and ultimately that's what we want. But what we've noticed when we put the Hybrid AI Advantage framework into work with customers and internally, it was pretty obvious that people are at the center of this kind of transformation. There's a cultural shift in how you integrate your employees, your workforce with AI agents, with AI. And we've integrated what we call adoption services and change management in the whole stack. There's no value from AI if your people are not using it, if they're not enabled to drive value from that technology. So the whole stack has to work across private, enterprise and cloud domains, right? So you might want to interact with your data and your services on a mobile phone. You might be internal to your enterprise and your data center. You might have to integrate with the cloud to stay at the edge of some of the technology that has been developed. So a working framework has to integrate all these components in a secure way, right? So, and that has been kind of one of the challenges that when we architected the whole kind of implementation and driving a value from AI with our customers, all those components are equally important and crucial. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would love to come back because the two of you mentioned the people part and the adoption part, so it's a great theme on the salon and so on. And we'll come back on this question, but just before that, I would love, Bernd, if you can give us the last layer of the hands-on of the journey you had at Deutsche Bank to create this factory, the success you have, and I read online that you are at Deutsche Bank strong on this agentic and autonomous agent that are starting to be deployed. So can you open the hood of what you do at Deutsche Bank?
Yeah, first of all, good morning from my side, and I only want to add to the people and change management layer, the topic of leadership, but happy to share the approach we have taken. I think it was already 3 years ago when we invited Jensen to our supervisory board meeting and had, I would say, a very helpful dialogue exchange resulting in a partnership between Deutsche Bank and NVIDIA, and giving the supervisory board and the board members the understanding this is not just another tool, this is not just another piece of technology. This is the opportunity for the bank to act, to use AI as a catalyst for transformation. Now, when you talk transformation, automatically this comes with leadership, this comes with change management, and you know, not just from AI, from many tech projects, if you talk about transformation and you are only driving it from a tech perspective, then it's the road to failure. So what was the approach we have taken? First of all, we massively invested in energizing and motivating the workforce. It starts with a broad education program, but as well giving the people in the organization access to AI tools. Now, I would call this phase one or stage one. That's just an augmentation of human tasks. This is still not transformation, but you break, I would say, the obstacles, the barrier for transformation. And we built an own digital assistant that allows our people to access any information, any document in the company, but as well any source they would love to double check. In banking, this is important, with public information. You talked about payments, you can talk about credits, you can talk about fraud. It's very relevant for bankers not to just rely on internal information, as well to rely on external information that is somewhere available in the public. So this was phase one. Then phase two, we started by saying we have existing processes, but these processes have too much manual work. So we think that we should focus more on our customers and on the customer service and not many people on back office operations. So the famous straight-through processing where agents can take over complete tasks. And I give you an example. We get thousands of unstructured documents every day. It can be via email, PDF, Word documents, and on all these customers have a request. And we have built an AI agent that is able to understand that text, the request of the customer, and automatically processing and triggering a workflow. So automation was stage two. And now we had actually exactly a week ago our investor day, where we shared our financial targets for the next 3 years for 2028, which goes in line with a big growth story, and that growth story only works if you reinvent the process, if you amplify and have an AI first thinking. And let me give you here an example. Think of a credit risk demand from a customer. Can be a private customer, can as well be a corporate customer. And in today's world, it takes banks often too long to get a response to the customer who is requesting it, with the result that the customer is shopping around at many banks and looking who is answering first, who gives me the best terms and conditions. And if you have a model that is taking over these tasks from human beings, and you are the first one, it's a completely different customer service. It changes the way the customer perceives the bank as a financial advisor, as a trusted person. Now, that's all about how we want to do it, but we build as well some governance and control. Always when you talk in banking, there has to be governance and control. So we built an AI oversight forum that, I think you said it, that the data we are using is robust, that the data is secure, that the data is reliable, because the ultimate currency we have in banking is the trust of our customers. So we have started as well to build agents that are controlling decisions built by AI tools. But we as well starting to build agents that are controlling human being decisions. And then, of course, if there is a discrepancy or a problem, then it's alert processing, and then the human in the loop comes back. So this was the approach. I would call it. It was in line with an ethical approach to implement AI in a way that we are not putting the trust as a currency of our customers at risk.
Maybe to respond. So there's a massive shift that happened this year. So when you think last year was all around experimentation, banks in particular were not very certain if AI is here to stay, if it's going. They were trying to augment existing processes, mainly used for the purpose of taking costs down. This year, there is a massive change. Everyone is looking across the board. But interesting enough, we published a survey before the summer. The maturity of banks when it comes to adoption of AI has dropped from comparing to last year. And this is because the speed of which AI is developing. Agentic is, at the moment, last year, that time, we just barely start talking about agentic. So banks traditionally are not settled to very quickly respond to such kind of dynamic environments. So going back to the topic of the session, this is where the concept of factory, the concept of a full stack implementation makes a lot of sense, because the application layer is just the top. If you have your data under control, you have your security, the trust in place, and you have secured you know how you consume or how you be powering that with what compute power. Changing the top layer is probably the easiest start. If the next evolution of agents, the next evolution of Gen AI comes, but you need to have all of these elements in place.
If I may, it's really interesting, and so technology is changing very rapidly, right? It's great, but it is a challenge for adoption. And at the same time, organizations like standardization. You like standard ways of doing stuff. And when we put the Hybrid AI Advantage framework in place, is how do we standardize in a kind of a rapidly changing world of technology, and how we interact with the technology? So you don't standardize necessarily on specific building blocks or specific technologies. You standardize. So what we've noticed is something that you standardize around governance and process. So, and every organization can start that around data. How your attitude to using technology, how do you employ it in the workplace? Second, you standardize the interfaces between the technologies. You standardize how the building blocks talk to each other. So there's a range of technologies out there. So for example, in that stack, the hybrid AI stack of technology and services, so how do we standardize at the infrastructure level? So we're creating systems that you can start with a 4 GPU server for inference, but you can add modules to that infrastructure that allows you to all of a sudden go to a scaled up use case or even to inference. So we're building, with our partners like NVIDIA and our customers, we're building standard interfaces that allows us to integrate building blocks as the use cases run. So for example, on the data, you standardize around the governance. You might standardize around what you want from data, not necessarily all the minutes of what the data is, but you set the rules, and that should be reusable. At the application layer, you're standardizing how you check for quality, you're standardizing your security procedures, which is not different from what we've done in the past with other software technologies, right? But you standardize around process, you standardize around interfaces in between the technologies, and then if something appears next year, we can build that into our framework that drives AI adoption and value forward. So, and it's a fascinating topic. So we could.
It is. I think the other important thing is to what we talk often in NVIDIA is know your workloads. It's surprising how sometimes companies are aware of what workloads and what do they consume and where and what do they power. Financial services is an extremely rich ecosystem. You have partners pretty much for every small steps of the equations. Some of the most important parts, when you standardize, you need to decide what you hold inside and what is your advantage and where you use partners. And then accelerating either your activities, so your workloads, or accelerating partners' workloads is the way that, without having this full view, it's very difficult to make an informed decision.
Agree, and very exhaustive. There is one last part that I would like to discuss with Bernd on maybe the final word. You talked about this process reinvention as the last step. For me, when we do it for our clients, I see one of the biggest challenge is the final interface, the final front end, or basically the tool, where the humans stay in the loop. Because you don't want to keep the same front end as before, the same interface and so on. Agents will do a part of it, automation will do a part. What do you see as the companion, AI companion or something that will be able to keep a human in the loop if needed for this process reinvented?
I mean, we had a long debate in our board, and today the interaction in the private banking is with mobile internet banking, so you have screens, you have UIs. Our vision is in future that we have, I call it a financial butler. It's much easier to visualize or to talk than to type. Imagine there is a financial butler and you are not calling a call center. The butler is picking it up, understanding the language, is having access to all the content in the organization, and then can have a dialogue with you, whether you want to have a new credit card, whether you want to have a consumer credit, whether you have lost your credentials for online banking. That is the ultimate change, where you do not need all these paperwork formulas, but again, always in a two-factor authentication way. We need to have the trust that this is not a fake call, that this is a real call. So we are massively investing into that. So the short answer is, in future, video and speech will be the primary interface in banking versus today more paper, bureaucratic typing work.
I'm conscious that we are running out of time, but I want to challenge him a bit. What is stopping you to do it now? The technology is there.
And nothing. Therefore, we shared it with the market. We are building it. We have prototypes internally. So it's not a tech problem anymore. It's a problem of leadership, of transformation and change. So nothing is stopping us. And I think that there is no need to challenge technology. It's rather the ability to transform and to rethink AI first.
I think we have signs that we need to escape right now, but thank you very much, very insightful. Thank you for being here and listening to this round table, and have a good time for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.